So, them not understanding the evidence, meaning they're not connecting it to the independent variable, because that's gonna be our, when we become dueling scientists and we have multiple experiments, then we're looking at, we have to have that evidence, and the evidence is gonna come from the information that's given to us in the table, chart, or graph.
Yep.
Okay? So, naming the gap is that scholars are not able to use a table, chart, or graph to identify evidence that can be used for their claim.
Yep.
Okay? So knowing that is the gap, we're gonna plan to close the gap.
Yep.
Okay? And so you just mentioned a few ideas. So we're gonna take, let me say, 6 minutes to plan.
Okay.
And then after we plan it out, we'll share and then practice.
Got it.
Okay? And so let's pause for a second. And so thinking about it, and I know the first thought, like when we talked about our teach, would you consider this to be guided this course or guided practice?
Guided practice.
I mean,
Direct modeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Model.
Yeah.
Why so?
Because I want to teach them I want to show them what it means to cite evidence in these types of problems, and I want to be able to model that for them so that they can then turn around and do it for themselves.
Okay.
And they get a clear understanding of what I mean by citing the evidence.
Okay.
Because I think I've been using the word annotation too loosely and not really being specific with it, and so I want to make sure that they have the system, and that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. So, since we're going to use the guided practice model, let's go ahead and finish up our thoughts, and then we'll come back together and share.
Yes, so like this is the idea and like that's the actual script that I would use.
Yes, and that's something too, we gotta make sure we script it out. And so, like I'll get up and then model it.
Okay.
How, like during the reteaching, this reteach shouldn't take, it shouldn't like the last one, maybe 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you still are going to use this one, so we can go over it again.
Yes.
You're just going over the, using the evidence.
Got it.
Okay? So, we go over it because I think only in the 4th period, if we take those 3, I think the percentage, it was 45% mastery. So good afternoon, class. Today, we are going to go over claim, evidence, and reasoning. We are going to focus on the evidence part of our claim, evidence, and reasoning. That is the E. As scientists, we have to have evidence that support our claim. And when we have evidence that support our claim, then that's how we are able to put our reasoning together. So today, we are going to look at our enzymes data table. And so, while I'm modeling, your paper should look like mine. If you hear something that I say that you may be confused of, go ahead and write it to the left side of your paper, and we'll save that for the parking lot. So, I'm going to look at the table, and at the bottom of my table, I have pH. So I'm writing pH. I'm underlining pH. And then we have our enzyme activity. So we have to label our graph with independent and dependent variable. Coy, what is the dependent variable?
pH.
Dependent variable.
Oh, the dependent is an enzyme activity.
The enzyme activity, right? Because the scientist, is changing the pH. The scientist, is measuring the enzyme activity. So let's go ahead and write that on our paper. DV and IV. Okay? So now, we see that we have a key. This key is important because it's going to tell us what enzymes and how they are reacting. I'm going to go to the highest point that I see on the table, on the graph. So, this is very important. Even though it may be the highest point on the table, does not mean it's the correct answer for our questions. And so that's, and I'm gonna pause right there and kind of like walk them through the process.
Yep.
Okay?
Cool.
So, I'll give it a try.
Yeah. All right.
I'll be your PD.
Oh, thanks. You'll be cool for me. All right, students, good afternoon. Today I want to go over the exit ticket from yesterday or from the previous day. We are looking at enzyme activity, and we're going to be talking about claim, evidence, and reasoning. Today we're going to focus in on just the evidence piece. How do we show our evidence when we're answering questions? So if you look at the graph right now, we have our graph in front of us. The first thing I want to do is make sure that I understand what's going on in the graph. The way that I make sure that I understand what's going on in the graph, I'm going to check the x and the y-axis. So whatever I do, you're going to do. So the first thing I note is the x-axis right here. It's pH. I'm going to underline it in my graph. I should see everyone else underlining it as well. Thank you. The next thing I have is my enzyme activity on my y-axis. Now based on these things, I can decide what my independent and dependent variables are. So from this, what's my independent variable? The thing that I'm adjusting as the scientist. Coy.
The pH.
Yes, the pH is my independent variable. I'm going to mark it with an IV. So that means that if this is my independent variable, then enzyme activity must be my what? Siobhan?
Dependent variable.
Excellent job. So we'll mark that with a DV. Great. So now as I go through this, I'm going to make sure that I'm paying close attention to the IV and DV as I answer my questions. I'm still going to continue to annotate my graph to make sure that I'm making the right answer. According to the information given above, it can be concluded that the enzyme with the highest activity is blank. I'm looking for the one with the highest activity. Would I be looking for my pH, or would I be looking for my enzyme activity?
Enzyme activity.
Great. So I'm looking for the highest enzyme activity. And I've got all these graphs, and they look really similar. how's the, like, what's the way that I'm gonna be able to tell them apart? Koi.
How the line is higher, the lowest or highest line.
Right, absolutely. And then I'm also gonna be looking at my legend to make sure that I know and understand which line is referring to what enzyme.
Mhm.
And if I see right here, my highest one that I have on the y-axis is the one with the circle, which is capsaicin.
Yes.
Cool, so I'm gonna mark that down on my paper. Okay, great, close.
So, you would, great job.
Okay, thanks.
I would make changes though.
Yeah.
So and I didn't get to that part, but saying, hey, I know capsaicin is my highest, my enzyme that has the most activity because the evidence from my graph shows me.
Oh yeah, like stamping
Because
it in the evidence.
Yes, because this is my evidence. As a scientist, I can see that the data was collected and this is the highest enzyme activity based on the graph.
Got it.
Okay, I was just rooting it back into
Yeah, for sure.
the evidence, what we named as the gap.
Yep.
Okay, so go ahead and make the edit, and then we'll pick up when you say we know that capsaicin is the enzyme with the most activity, and this is why we know it.
So we know that the answer is capsaicin, but more than just saying the answer is capsaicin, I want to ground it back in my evidence here. On the graph, capsaicin is the highest in terms of enzyme activity. So I can verify that that's actually the correct answer based on that evidence that I made.
So knowing that, and we have interims coming.
Yep.
So when next week can I come see you do this?
Can we continue doing it on Thursdays?
Yes.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, I like having that like little break in the beginning of like, hey, here's what we're gonna go over. This is the most common misconception. I also think it's gonna be really beneficial. The quiz they're taking today, there's a lot of